My child, stop before you continue, because I watched your whole day from beginning to this moment. Before another thought enters your mind, before you move to the next task, before your eyes wander again toward everything demanding your attention, hear me now, because I have been near you since the first moment this day opened. I saw you before the morning fully settled around you. I watched the first thoughts that reached your mind before you even rose from where you rested. I saw the weight you carried before anyone spoke to you. I saw the hurry already forming inside you before your feet touched the ground. Nothing about your day was hidden from me. Every small movement, every silent sigh, every look of concern, every moment when you tried to prepare yourself for another long stretch of effort, I saw all of it. While you believe you were simply moving through another ordinary day, I remained beside you, watching with patience, not because I wish to accuse you, but because I know how often you move without noticing how much your soul is asking for what only I can give. You rushed through today, answered many voices, touched many things, but how many times did you pass by my voice? How many times did you feel the slight pause inside you and continue anyway because something else felt more urgent? How many times did your hands stay full while your spirit quietly waited for one moment of stillness that never fully came? I watched you answer messages, respond to demands, carry responsibilities, think ahead, solve problems, manage pressures, and move from one thing to another with hardly a breath between them. Your day filled quickly, and with each passing hour your mind gave itself to one need after another. But even in the middle of all that movement, my voice came near more than once. Not loudly, not in a way that would interrupt your world by force. I came softly, in the way I often do, because I still honor the quiet places inside you where choice lies. I came in moments when your heart felt a brief pull toward stillness. I came when your thoughts slowed for only a second and something in you almost turned inward. I came when silence touched you between one task and the next. But you continued, because the day felt too full, and the world around you spoke louder than the whisper within. I waited in the quiet moment you ignored. I stood near while your hands stayed busy. When your eyes lowered for that brief second and your heart almost sighed toward me, I was there. When you paused before speaking and then moved on quickly, I was there. When you felt tired in the middle of your work and looked away as if searching for something you could not name, I was there. I know you did not intend to turn away. I know your day carried many things, and your thoughts were stretched in many directions. But my child, I want you to understand how often I stand inside those unnoticed moments. Not only in prayer when words are prepared, not only when you intentionally seek me. I stand in ordinary spaces too. I wait in small openings where your spirit almost turns. I wait in pauses you call insignificant. I wait when your breathing changes because pressure rises and your soul silently asks for peace even before your lips form a prayer. There were moments today when you felt something pulling inside you that was me. When the noise around you suddenly felt heavier than usual and something in you wanted to step away for just a breath. That was me. When a thought of stillness crossed your mind for no clear reason. That was me. When you remembered me for a second and then told yourself you would return later, that was me drawing near again. When your heart softened unexpectedly while no one noticed, that was me touching a place in you that remains open even after long hours of distraction. You may think these moments were too small to matter, but I tell you now they matter deeply because every small inward turning is precious when the world has taught you to keep moving even when your soul grows tired. Before you sleep tonight, there is something you must hear, because not every missed moment stays small. Some moments pass quietly yet leave behind a deeper emptiness because what your spirit needed was near, and still you moved past it. I do not say this to fill you with fear, but to awaken tenderness inside you before another day closes without understanding what your heart has truly needed. Many times you think exhaustion comes only from work, from people, from problems, from responsibilities. But often exhaustion becomes heavier because you carry the day without resting your inner life in me even once deeply enough to let peace settle. You completed many tasks today, but still there remained a quiet hunger inside you that nothing else touched. That hunger did not come because you failed outwardly. It came because your spirit passed several invitations it did not fully receive. Comment Jesus, I'm nothing without you if He is your only foundation. Even when you did not stop for me, I did not leave you. Understand this clearly, because love does not withdraw simply because attention drifts. I remained near in every hour you gave elsewhere. I stayed beside you in every rushed thought, every unfinished emotion, every hidden pressure you never explained aloud. When frustration rose, I remained there. When weariness touched your body, I remained there. When your face looked calm but your thoughts were crowded, I remained there. My nearness does not disappear because your focus weakens. I am patient in ways human love often is not. I do not turn away because you delayed a moment with me. I do not abandon you because other voices took your attention first. Yet my patience should never be mistaken for distance. I stay because I love, but I also speak because I desire more than your survival through the day. I desire your heart, your stillness, your trust, your honest turning, even if only for a few moments that belong fully to me. There were times today when you almost noticed how empty the noise around you felt. Perhaps for 1 second after finishing something important, there was no peace attached to it. Perhaps after answering everyone else, something inside you still remained unsettled. Perhaps after solving what needed solving, your inner life still carried an unnamed heaviness. Those were not meaningless feelings. Those were signs that your soul knew activity had not touched what truly needed care. You filled the hours, but fullness of hours is not the same as fullness of spirit. That is why I kept drawing near quietly, not to interrupt what you had to do, but to remind you that even in your busiest day there must remain one inward place where you do not hurry past me. Do not leave early, because the final part explains what almost passed you today without you noticing. Something came near you more than once today, not only my presence, but peace that could have entered more deeply if you had allowed one moment to remain open longer. Comfort almost reached you in a fuller way while you stood distracted. Clarity almost settled over thoughts that remained crowded. Strength almost entered places where pressure stayed too long because your attention moved again before your heart rested. You think the day was only ordinary, but many hidden moments carried more than you knew. Small openings can hold great healing when they are not rushed away. And now the day is closing. The voices are softer than before. The demands that filled the hours no longer press the same way. The night has opened a quieter space, and here I am again, speaking not with anger, not with rejection, but with steady love that waited through every excuse, every delay, every unfinished inward moment. I watched you all day, and still I speak gently because I know the part of you that truly longs for me has not disappeared. It has only been buried beneath noise, duty, habit, and fatigue. Please support our channel. Our work is to bring happiness in your life and devotion to God. And if you want, you can support to us through Ko-Fi. Link is given in description. So before your eyes close tonight, hear me clearly. I am not counting only what you missed. I am opening again what still remains possible now. The day may be ending, but my nearness has not ended with it. The missed moments do not have to remain lost if tonight you finally become still enough to hear what your soul has needed since morning. Lay down the rush now. Let your thoughts sow. Let the noise loosen its hold. Let your spirit breathe again where no one demands anything from you. Tonight I am still here, still waiting, still God. My child, heaven watched you in silence all day, not because I was far from you, not because I had nothing to say, and not because I did not see what was happening inside you, but because I was observing every movement of your heart with patience deeper than you realize. From the first moment morning arrived, I was there before your eyes fully opened, before you reached for your thoughts, before your mind began arranging everything you needed to do, before the weight of responsibilities returned to your chest. I was already near you. I watched how quickly your thoughts began moving. I saw how even before the day truly began, you were already preparing yourself for demands that had not yet reached you. I saw the first sigh that left your body before anyone else heard your voice. I saw how your mind did not wake slowly in peace, but entered motion almost immediately, as if rest had ended before your spirit had fully recovered from yesterday. You rose with more inside you than anyone around you could see. Outwardly the morning looked normal, but inwardly there were already unfinished feelings waiting beneath the surface. There were thoughts from yesterday still resting inside you. There were concerns not yet solved. There were questions you had pushed aside because another day required your strength again. I watched you move quickly because you believed there was no time to stop. I saw how the morning rush took hold of you before stillness could settle. You reached toward what needed attention first, and the day began carrying you before your soul had fully found its place. I saw the way your hands moved quickly, how your eyes searched for what had to be done first, how your body entered routine while your spirit remained quiet beneath the surface. You did not mean to rush past yourself, but urgency had already become natural to you. To meeting morning now begin the sweet ass first, moving first, thought first, response first. And while all of this happened, I remained near, not speaking loudly, not forcing interruption, but watching with tenderness because I know how often you begin the day carrying invisible weight before you even name it. Then your attention turned toward the voices waiting through the small screen in your hand. Before your spirit had breathed deeply, before one quiet thought toward me had fully formed, your eyes met messages, updates, words, images, concerns, demands, expectations. I watched how quickly the phone became the doorway through which the noise of the world entered your morning. What began as one look became many thoughts. One message led to another feeling. One blast became many mental movements. And while your fingers moved, your heart became even fuller. I do not say this to condemn you, my child, but to show you how quietly distraction enters before you realize what it has taken. Because every time your attention moved outward too quickly, something inward remained waiting. There were moments when your spirit almost paused. Brief moments when you felt a slight inward pull, a softness that could have become prayer, a silence that could have become rest. But the next sound came, the next thought arrived, the next duty called, and the pause disappeared before you fully noticed it. I saw every one of those inner pauses. I noticed every second when your soul almost turned inward. Even when you did not stay there, I noticed it. As the day moved forward, others saw your activity, but I saw what activity was covering. I saw emotional exhaustion hiding beneath ordinary movement. I saw how you answered what needed answering while inwardly feeling heavier than your words revealed. I saw how you completed simple things while your mind remained crowded. There were moments when you looked steady, but inside you were already tired. Not only physically tired, but emotionally tired in ways that cannot be solved by sitting down for a few minutes. You have learned how to continue even while tired inside. You know how to speak when your spirit feels quiet. You know how to finish what must be finished even when your heart feels full. Others often do not notice because you have practiced carrying inner heaviness while outwardly remaining present. But I notice it every time. I saw how some conversations required energy you did not fully have. I saw how certain simple things felt heavier than they should have because your inner strength had already been stretched before noon arrived. And still I remained silent, not absent, but patient. Divine silence was not distance. My silence was patient observation. I watched because love does not always interrupt immediately. Sometimes love watches carefully first, seeing where your heart truly is, noticing what words you are not speaking, understanding what you yourself have not fully admitted yet. I listened not only to what you said aloud, but to what your breathing revealed, to what your eyes revealed, to what your quiet pauses revealed. There were times during the day when you stopped for only a second and looked nowhere in particular. To others it meant nothing. To me it spoke deeply. Those small moments told me how tired your heart had become. There were moments when your body continued working but your thoughts drifted for a second because inside you something wanted rest. Those moments were not invisible to me. Even when you ignored them and moved again, I saw them. Right, Lord, breathe new life into me if you're longing for His renewal. I noticed the hidden burden you carried when no one asked if you were all right. I noticed the weight behind your silence when you answered simply because you had no strength to explain deeply. I noticed the concern you push aside because there was no space in the moment to feel it fully. I noticed how certain thoughts returned quietly throughout the day. Thoughts you tried to push away because they were inconvenient while responsibilities continued. My child, I noticed every hidden burden too. The burden you smiled through. The burden you postponed because there was work to do. The burden you did not name because naming it would have required stopping, and stopping felt difficult. I saw the small ache in you when something reminded you of what still feels unresolved. I saw how quickly you covered certain feelings because the day demanded forward movement. And there were more inner pauses than you realize. Brief moments when your spirit almost reached toward me. A few seconds when your heart softened unexpectedly. A quiet feeling that came and went before you understood it. A sudden thought of stillness that quickly disappeared beneath another task. Those pauses were invitations, but I did not force them because love waits with gentleness. I remained there each time, watching whether you would notice how near I was. Sometimes you think because I did not speak loudly, I was silent in distance. But my silence often carries deeper attention than words. I watched your full day with complete tenderness. I saw how many times you almost rested inwardly but continued instead. I saw how many times your hands stayed moving because stopping felt harder than continuing. I saw how many times you answered others while quietly carrying what no one asked about. And beneath all the busyness, this remained true. You were busy, but internally tired. The world around you saw movement. I saw weariness beneath movement. Others saw tasks completed. I saw strength, beating spent while your heart quietly longed for one true moment of peace. Others saw normal hours. I saw how each hour cost more inside than it appeared outside. That is why heaven watched you in silence, not because nothing mattered, but because everything mattered. Every rushed moment mattered. Every ignored pause mattered. Every hidden burden mattered. Every silent breath mattered. Every tired thought mattered. I watched because I loved too deeply to miss even one invisible struggle. And now, as the day stands behind you, I want you to know this: none of what you carried today escaped my eyes. Not one hidden burden, not one ignored pause, not one tired breath, not one inward ache. Even when you kept moving, I understood what movement was hiding. Even when your hands stayed busy, I knew your soul was asking quietly for rest. So when you wonder whether heaven notices ordinary days like this, remember what I am telling you now. I watched every hour, every distraction, every rush, every silent burden, every unfinished emotion, every inward pause you barely noticed yourself. And even in silence, I remain near, not distant, not absent, but patient, loving, and fully aware of the tired heart beneath your busy day. My child, there were moments today you thought were too small to matter, moments so ordinary that you passed through them without realizing how deeply I had entered them. You often expect my presence to arrive only in large moments, in long prayer, in clear signs, in strong emotion, in words that sound unmistakably sacred. But I tell you now, many times I come wrapped inside ordinary seconds, because ordinary seconds are where your heart is most honest. I do not wait only for grand attention. I step into the smallest spaces of your day, into moments you almost ignore, into quiet places hidden between one task and the next. And many times, while you believed nothing important was happening, I was there more closely than you understood. There was a short silence today, brief enough that you almost did not notice it. Everything had been moving quickly, and then for a moment there was no voice, no task, no message, no immediate demand. It lasted only a few seconds, but in that silence your spirit softened without your mind fully understanding why. You may have looked away, paused your hands, or simply stared for a moment before continuing. To you it seemed empty, too small to remember, but I was there inside that silence. Silence is never empty when I enter it. Even the shortest quiet can carry my nearness when your heart becomes still enough to feel what words cannot explain. I saw how your soul almost leaned inward in that moment. I saw how something inside you briefly loosened, as if your spirit wanted to stay there longer. But the next thought arrived, the next need returned, and you moved again. Still, I remained in that silence, because even seconds matter when I am trying to reach what your busy thoughts often cover. There was also a sudden pause during your day when something interrupted your flow for no clear reason. Perhaps you stopped before speaking. Perhaps your hands slowed before continuing what you were doing. Perhaps your eyes lifted without knowing why. That sudden pause was not accidental. It may have felt like nothing, but often those pauses are where my presence brushes gently against your awareness. I love pauses because the soul often hears best when movement breaks unexpectedly. In that brief pause, I was near your thoughts, waiting to see if you would notice that your heart had shifted for a second. You may have continued quickly, but the pause itself carried invitation. Not every pause needs explanation. Some pauses are wholly simply because they open one breath of inward space where my voice could have entered if you had stayed a little longer. And there was that random thought of prayer that crossed your mind without warning. You did not plan it. It arrived suddenly, perhaps while doing something simple, perhaps while your attention was on something else entirely. For a second you thought of speaking to me, even if no words formed fully. Maybe it came like a name in your mind. Maybe it came like a small inward whisper that said you should stop for a moment. Maybe it was only one quiet thought that disappeared quickly because another responsibility returned. But that thought was not random. I placed that gentle turning before you because even one small thought toward me can become a doorway if you let it remain. Many times you think prayer must begin with perfect focus, but often prayer begins with one passing inward turn that I send gently into your thoughts. I saw how quickly that thought came and how quickly it faded beneath the weight of what still needed attention. Yet even as it faded, I remain there because I know how many times your spirit wants me before your schedule allows you to notice it fully. The thought itself mattered because it revealed something deeper. Beneath everything that filled your day, there remains a place in you that still reaches toward me, even when only for a second. Then there was that deep breath during stress, the one you barely noticed because it happened in the middle of pressure. Something inside you tightened for a moment. Perhaps a burden returned. Perhaps frustration rose. Perhaps you felt tired suddenly. And without planning it, you breathed deeply, as if your body itself was asking for relief your words had not yet spoken. That breath was not small to me. I was there in that breath. Many times your deepest prayer begins before language, in a breath, in a sigh, in a silent exhale when your heart can no longer hold pressure quietly. You may think only spoken words reach me, but I tell you now, I hear even the breath that leaves you when stress becomes too heavy. That breath carried more than tiredness. It carried your hidden need for peace. It carried the part of you that wanted help even before your thoughts formed the request clearly. I entered that moment because I always listen where pressure touches your inner life. Even when no one else noticed, I noticed how that breath came from deeper than your body. It came from a place in you that has been carrying more than you explain aloud. All these moments, the short silence, the sudden pause, the thought of prayer, the deep breath during stress were not disconnected events. They were divine invitations placed gently through your day. I do not always call loudly because loudness is not always what your spirit needs. Sometimes invitation comes softly because I am not forcing closeness, I am opening it. I was not absent from your day waiting only for evening to speak. I was near repeatedly, entering ordinary moments because ordinary life is where your soul often needs me most. You often think divine moments must look extraordinary, but many of my invitations arrive hidden in ordinary rhythm. I step into the silence after one task ends and before another begins. I enter the second when your thoughts drift unexpectedly inward. I move through the breath you release when pressure rises. I speak through small inward thoughts that appear without warning. These moments may not look dramatic, but they are often the nearest moments of my presence because they come when your heart is least defended. I stood in ordinary moments waiting for your attention. Not with anger, not with disappointment, but with patience. I stood there while you continued because love waits even when it is not immediately noticed. I stood in the silence you moved through too quickly. I stood in the pause you explained away. I stood in the thought of prayer you postponed. I stood in the breath you took when stress touched you more deeply than you admitted. There were several times today when one extra moment could have opened peace more deeply than you expected. If you had stayed in that silence slightly longer, you would have felt your thoughts soften. If you had remained in the pause, your heart might have heard what it has been needing. If you had followed that thought of prayer instead of delaying it, even simple words would have opened relief. If you had let that deep breath become surrender, some hidden tension might already have loosened. But even though you moved on, those moments were not wasted because I am speaking of them now so you can understand how near I truly was. My child, I want you to begin noticing what you once dismissed. The short silence is not always empty. The sudden pause is not always meaningless. The thought of prayer is not always random. The deep breath during stress is not always just tiredness. Many times these are the places where I enter gently because I know how hard it is for your heart to slow down once the world has filled your attention. Even now, as you hear these words, remember those unnoticed moments. Remember how often ordinary life carries hidden openings. Remember that my nearness does not wait only for formal prayer. I come while you work, while you think, while you pause, while you breathe, while you almost notice something inside you and move on. And the truth remains this: I stood in ordinary moments waiting for your attention. I stood there not because I needed your perfection, but because your soul needed my nearness more than you understood. I stood there because I know how tired your inner life becomes when every moment belongs outwardly and none remain inwardly open. I stood there because even one ordinary second surrendered becomes holy when you let me enter it. So when tomorrow comes and another short silence appears, do not rush too quickly. When another sudden pause arrives, do not dismiss it immediately. When a thought of prayer crosses your mind, do not always delay it. When stress rises and a deep breath leaves you, remember that I hear even that breath. Because many times the moments you thought were ordinary are the very places where I am nearest, waiting quietly, patiently, lovingly, for one moment of your attention. My child, there is something tender I want you to understand about your own heart. Because many times you do not even realize what you are doing while you move through the day so quickly. You often think your busyness is only responsibility, only duty, only the natural result of life asking much from you. And yes, there are real things you must do, real people you must answer, real demands that stand before you. But beneath all of that, there is another truth you have not always allowed yourself to fully see. Sometimes busyness became your shield. Sometimes movement became the place where you hid from what your soul did not want to touch yet. Sometimes filling every hour felt easier than allowing one quiet moment to uncover what was waiting underneath. I say this to you with gentleness, not to wound you, not to accuse you, but because I love you too deeply to leave hidden things unnamed when they continue shaping your days. There were many moments when you chose another task not because it was urgent, but because stillness felt uncomfortable. You reached for something to do because doing felt safer than feeling. You answered another voice because silence might have allowed another thought to rise, and some thoughts have become difficult for you to sit with. You kept your hands occupied because when your hands are occupied, your heart can remain partly hidden from itself. You moved quickly because slowing down would have allowed emotions you were not ready to face to stand before you more clearly. This does not mean your work is false or your responsibilities are not real. It means that somewhere along the way, your heart learned that activity can protect you from inward discomfort. When pain does not fully heal, it often hides beneath routine. When sadness is delayed too long, it often settles quietly beneath movement. When certain disappointments remain unresolved, the mind often chooses forward motion because stopping feels like opening a door that may be difficult to close again. So you continued. One thing after another. One day after another. One responsibility after another. And slowly, without fully noticing, busyness became more than habit. It became protection. I have watched the moments when your day became full even before your heart had space to breathe. I have seen how quickly you move from one task to another, not always because everything demands immediate attention, but because empty moments sometimes feel heavier than full ones. Empty moments leave room for memory. Empty moments leave room for questions. Empty moments leave room for emotions you thought were already behind you but still remain quietly alive beneath the surface. So the mind chooses motion because motion delays confrontation. But my child, even while you stayed busy, hidden sadness remained with you. It did not disappear simply because you filled the hours. It only became quieter beneath the noise. There are parts of your heart carrying sadness you have not fully named because naming it would require admitting how deeply certain things affected you. Some sadness came from what did not happen. Some sadness came from what changed unexpectedly. Some sadness came from how certain people left pieces of pain behind even after they were no longer near you. Some sadness came from dreams that became quiet before they became real. Some sadness came from prayers you once spoke with great hope that now sit inside you with softer expectation because waiting changes how you hold them. You may not cry every day. You may not speak often about what hurts. But sadness does not always show itself loudly. Sometimes it lives in how tired your spirit feels even when nothing dramatic happened. Sometimes it appears in how easy your heart becomes heavy when evening comes. Sometimes it rises in small moments when a memory returns unexpectedly. Sometimes it hides in how little joy simple things bring compared to before. I see all of this, and because I see it, I know that much of your movement has been an attempt to stay ahead of what sadness might say if silence lasted too long. There is also delayed pain within you. Pain that did not leave when the moment passed because you never fully gave yourself permission to sit with it. Some wounds were put forward because life required strength too quickly. Some disappointments were covered because others needed you present while your own heart still felt unfinished. Some losses became quiet because speaking of them felt too tiring after a while. Yet delayed pain does not vanish simply because time moves. It waits quietly until silence gives it room again. I know there are things you told yourself were already behind you, yet they still return in strange moments. As if someone once said, a door that once closed, a season that changed too suddenly, a hope that faded before you were ready to release it. You thought time alone would remove their weight. But some pain needs tenderness, not just time. Some pain remains because it has not yet been brought fully into my light. This is why certain quiet moments still feel difficult. Because silence often becomes the place where delayed pain begins speaking again. And because you sense that without always understanding it, activity became easier than stillness. If the day remains full, then the heart stays protected from deeper conversation. If the mind remains occupied, then what hurts remains beneath the surface a little longer. And beneath both hidden sadness and delayed pain, there is another thing I want you to see gently. Fear of facing silence. Not fear in loud form, not fear you would easily name, but a quiet fear that if you become too still, too much may rise at once. Fear that silence might reveal how tired you truly are. Fear that quiet might uncover emotions you no longer know how to explain. Fear that if you stop long enough, questions may come that have no immediate answer. Fear that if the noise fades, your own heart may ask for something deeper than you feel ready to give attention to. So you often choose movement because movement gives structure. Movement creates a sense of control. Movement keeps life measurable. Silence feels less predictable because silence allows what is hidden to approach. But hear me carefully. I do not expose these things to condemn you. I speak of them because I want to love you inside them. Divine compassion is not accusation. I am not standing before you disappointed that you became busy. I understand why you learned to move this way. I understand how pain teaches self-protection. I understand how tired hearts choose familiar patterns just to keep functioning. I know why activity became comfortable and silence became difficult. I do not reject you for that. I remain here because I know what your busyness has been trying to protect. I know the sadness you never fully described. I know the pain you delayed because there seemed no safe moment to feel it. I know the quiet fear that stillness may ask more from you than you feel able to offer. Say, Father, you're my unshakable hope if you're standing on His promises. And share this video.